Hi everyone, welcome to this pre-conference webinar. This is the last one we're gonna do before the conference happens next week here in Valencia. So welcome everyone. In case you're just joining and you have no context on why we're doing this webinar is happening because next week here in Valencia we're having the Selenium and the Appium conference together. So between the 26th and the 28th of March next week here in Valencia 2025. We have a great agenda. We had so many good proposals, and this is because we had an extension to the regular conference topics we have in Selenium conferences and Appium conferences. We expanded them a bit. So we have very interesting topics. We obviously have AI in testing, which is one of the biggest and hottest topics these days. But we also have different focuses like video game automation, an interesting set of use cases when you talk about observability and synthetic monitoring using WebDriver scripts, for example. This is something that is trending quite a bit. Also, we're going to cover the traditional topics like continuous testing, the WebDriver ecosystem, topics about accessibility as well, which is a huge topic here in Europe during 2025. So that's why we have such a great set of topics and proposals and obviously talks in the conference. And this is because we have a really good and diverse set of people who helped us to be organizers and to review all the conference proposals. The sad part about this is that we had over, well, that's not the sad part. I mean, the really good part was that we had over 200 proposals. And the sad part is that we only had around 23 slots for the conference, which means that many good proposals couldn't really make it to the conference. And that's why we're doing this webinar to showcase some of the proposals that were really, really good, but they couldn't make it to the conference. If you want to check the agenda, it's live since a couple of months ago in selimconf.com/agenda. We have amazing keynote speakers like Almudena Vivanco from Spain, Angie Jones, obviously one of the most important persons in testing during the last 5 to 10 years. And we also have the members of the Selenium and Appium teams, and we have different experts in different fields in the automation and testing industry as well. There is time still to register. We have a few tickets left. I forgot to update this slide, but we're out of workshops. Workshops are sold out. I think we actually have like just 1 or 2 tickets left for a couple of workshops. But for regular tickets, we have around 40 tickets left. So we're happy that people are actually attending the conference, joining us. So if you are still interested to join and you want a small discount, you can use the pre-conf webinar discount code to join us. Today, we're having, as I mentioned a moment ago, the last talk in the pre-conference webinar series. We're going to have Masayuki from MagicPod, a software engineer who proposed 2 very interesting topics. One of the most liked ones was this one, how to diagnose Appium test failures. And it was actually pretty close to the final round, and that's why I'm pretty happy to have Masayuki here being part of the pre-conference webinar. So Masayuki, welcome.
Yes, thank you for hosting the webinar, and I'm happy to be here, a part of conference. Anyway, can I start my session?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with us. There's your presentation. Please have fun. Thank you for using some of your free time to share your expertise with us, and we're looking forward to see your presentation. For everyone who is watching this presentation live, feel free to write a comment, either if you're in YouTube live, in YouTube, or in LinkedIn live, write as a comment, and we will see it here as a question. In case you have questions, if you want to understand something better, write it there. And at the end of the presentation, we will get to them so we can actually give Masayuki some feedback. So thank you very much. The stage is yours, Masayuki. Thank you. See you in a while.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for introduction. And as I mentioned, my name is Masayuki Wakizaka from Japan. And again, I'm really happy to be the part of the Appium conference. And in Japan, it's 10 p.m. And I hope this session time is convenient for you. And today I would like to talk about this topic. And here's my content. Firstly, let me share a little bit about myself. And then let's start with the challenges of running a mobile test. After that, I will share the key three takeaways. And then I would like to continue with this case study to demonstrate my takeaways. And again, my name is Masayuki Wakizaka. This is my Japanese name, Japanese kanji. It's a bit complicated anyway. And I work at MagicPad. We provide easy test automation platform using Selenium and Appium. And as I'm an engineering manager who is responsible for handling customers' technical inquiries, including Selenium stuff and Appium stuff. And and then I'll be joining participating Selenium and Appium conference next week, and I'm really happy if some of you reach out to me at the venue. And so let's start with challenges. What's the challenges when it comes to mobile HUD testing and flakiness and having many integrations or the performance? As part of my job addressing customers' technical inquiries, I've been encountered various kind of failures in our customers' automated test. And regarding flakiness, as an IT platform provider, we strive to make our solution, our IT test, make it consistent as possible. And however, unfortunately, some customers encounter flaky and inconsistent behaviors. Like example in this slide, another interact with the application the test and IoT application the test or a device on the test, unexpected crashes during test run. Network sometimes, become unreachable intermittently. When it comes to integrations, some of you may know, but each test rely on many dependencies, and it's sometimes difficult to understand the Appium's internals. As for performance, some of our customers ask us why iOS tests, become slower than Android tests. And that said, due to the nature of its test, it can be helped to be slower than unit testing. So I agree that these are the real difficulties, real challenges. They are difficult problems to solve. In addition to that, identifying the root cause of test failure is often challenging. If you encounter flakiness, it might indicate a race condition, intermittent network device server or device, or application server issue. And when investigating a test failures, having a lot of dependencies and integrations can slow you down. Based on the failure message or server logs, you need to check multiple factors. For example, test your test script and AUT, DUT, Appium, third-party framework, etc. And as for the performance issue, the expert is well known for the slowness, especially on iOS. However, it often turns out that the server resource constraints, or high server load is likely the cause sometimes. And in our case, we multiple don't have direct access to the AUT or its codebase because these belong to the customers, customers AUT. We cannot directly access to them. And sometimes we don't have the access to the test environment. I mean the test learning environment, which mobile test run. It makes the investigation, even more, it's difficult for us. So, is there a silver bullet? And I wish there was, but unfortunately there isn't. Having said that, I'm here to share some key takeaways with you to mitigate your concern. So the first one is building a strong understanding of Appium, knowing how Appium and its dependencies, work is crucial. It helps you, identifying the root cause of issues more quickly. First, let me share the basics of Appium with you. Appium is an open source framework for its test automation with a strong presence in mobile testing. And it implements diversity protocol that extends the one used for Selenium. And Appium works as a client server module, and the test scripts can be written in several programming languages. Here's the architecture of Appium. As I mentioned earlier, Appium follows the client server module. Therefore, you can visualize the architecture with clear boundaries. And at the top of the hierarchy is Appium client side, and at the middle is the server side, and at the bottom is the third-party framework and device under test. And let me focus on the iOS behavior as it relates to my main topic. There's several key components, and at the top of the hierarchy is test script that implements your test scenario. And next you use most likely use Appium client binding. It is a library, Appium client library or package, which is convenient for developing Appium tests. There are some languages you can use for developing your test script: JavaScript, Java C Sharp, Python, Ruby, and Dart. Next, you need to have Appium server, and then Appium server, you need to install a Appium driver to test your mobile device. In this case, I'm explaining about iOS, so you need to install XiTest driver that implements features for testing iOS. Next, WebDriverAgent. This is a WebDriver server used to remote control iOS devices. And then as a third-party framework, here, XiTest, you need WebDriverAgent depends on the XiTest framework. That is framework for Xcode project developed by Apple. At the end, you need to have your iOS device under test. And how, let me move on to this sequential diagram to explain, how Appium dependencies interact with one another. And at the left is Appium client side, and at the center of the page is Appium server, and the device side is on the right of this page. Okay. When you start running an Appium test, you begin creating a Appium session from your test script, and you probably use API provided by Appium library. The process of creating an Appium session invokes a series of complex configurations to run each test on your iOS device. As part of these configurations, the XiTest driver it installs WebDriverAgent on your iOS device. After finish installing the WebDriverAgent XiTest driver, launches the WebDriverAgent as an ATT server in your iOS device. And based on the requests comes from Appium server, the WebDriverAgent controls your iOS device using a XiTest framework. Here's some example of finding an element, and when you try finding an element from your test script, that's meaning that you call API provided by Appium binding, Appium package. And in that case, your Appium client library will send an HTTP request to Appium server. In this case, it will use a path method, and in this example, use Express locator. And then Appium server proxies the request to the WebDriverAgent. And then WebDriverAgent queries the element using the XCTest framework based on the request data from Appium client side. After completing the query, WebDriverAgent returns the response to the Appium client. The status code 200. It indicates, the request was successfully handled by the server. In this example, I use real device, but the same process applies to the iOS simulators. As for Android, it follows the same sequence when you run Android tests with Appium. The Appium server installs UI automated server on the Android device. Then the UI automated server behaves similarly to WebDriver agent. So I cannot share the details here due to the time constraint. There are some important dependencies to note. For iOS, Xcode plays important role in iOS testing. Additionally, tools like sim control and device control feature subcommand of Epsilon command are also essential for interacting with simulators and real devices. For Android, the Appium server calls variety kind of ADB command. You can check the command invocation, ADB command invocation in the Appium server log, which I will explain later. And also XCTest driver package. It consists of several sub packages. Let me introduce a little bit here. Appium XCTest driver. This is the main package of XCTest driver. And Appium WebDriverAgent is the WebDriver package. And Appium Remote Debugger is a component that enables WebView testing on iOS. And Appium iOS simulator and Appium iOS device are packages that contain libraries for interacting with simulator and device rather than the application the test. For example, they handle tasks like installing application the test and managing the location services. No sim control is a wrapper for Epsilon sim control command. So let's move on to the next topic. When you encounter an easy test failure, your first step is to understand what went wrong. It's essential to gather all relevant information about the test failure to aid in your investigation. In this takeaway section, I discuss 4 practices that can enhance your debugging experience. So first one is what is Appium server logs. The Appium server log is the log output generated by the Appium server during the test execution. It provides detailed information about the interactions between the Appium server, the device under test, and and the current test script. And the law is crucial for developing the tests, Appium tests, and diagnosing issues related to automation. By reviewing the Appium server log, you can identify and narrow down the cause of your test failure. Let me share an example. When creating a Appium session. As I mentioned earlier, a variety of settings are configured to run each of the tests, and by checking their logs while establishing the Appium session, you can, for example, check their capabilities. You passed what capabilities are actually processed by the Appium server. In this example, I specify iOS platform and also the the version. You can check the version of the iOS here, 18.3. Actually, some of you may know that the Appium server log is very organized. And when you start, when the Appium server start handling the request from client side, the log begins with the HTTP prefix along with a row which goes to the right direction. Similarly, when completing, handling the request, the prefix also starts with HTTP and along with a row which goes to the left direction. And furthermore, the log prefixes help you understand which server or component is emitting the logs. In this case of capabilities, this part of the logs are generated from base server, which is a superclass of XC UIT server. And when the Appium session is successfully created, in other words, when Appium server successfully handling the request, it returns the response with the status code 200, as I mentioned earlier. On the other hand, if the session creation fails, the status code indicates either a client error or server error. In this case, it indicates server error 500. Additionally, you can check the Appium server log to identify which command invocation caused the failure. In this case of session creation failure, you see the xcore build command exited with code 70. And you can also check the full list of arguments for xcore build command here, and you can try the full commands to narrow down the issue where the issue lies. While establishing the Appium session, and you can also see the actual cause of the creation failure around here. And according to this part of the Appium log, it indicates provisioning profiles issue. And as for well-known, failure of Appium session creation, the Appium server provides the link for the resolution like here. So next, I would like to share about device logs. Device logs refers to logs collected from the device under test during a Appium test. This contains system level information, including the app crash, system event, and the tracking message from the OS. And for iOS, it refers to the syslog, and as for Android, it refers to the logcat log. Device log is useful when investigating issues beyond Appium scope, such as app crashes and gesture recognition issues and network errors. Let me share an example of device log, which derives from iOS simulator. You observe this kind of device log when you taking a screenshot from WebDriverAgent or your test script. Here's the table. It breaks down the log components of the device log. This part of the component indicates the timestamp, as you notice, and df indicates the log level, and this, test manager D component indicates the subsystem. Usually, in other words, it refers to the app name, process name, or bundle ID. As for this component, it indicates process ID and thread ID. And this part of the log represents the log category, general network UI, or it may indicate a class or method name in your application and the test. And finally, this part indicates the actual log message. And let's move on to the taking the page source. What is the page source? The page source describes the XML representation of the current screen of AUT. The page source is the it is essential, especially useful when capturing the page source before completing the E2E testing. In that way, you can refer to the page source when you fail to find an element. And here the example of the iOS page source here. And this is a corresponding application UI. And by comparing the page source and the UI of your AUT, you can confirm the element of your interest, exist in the page source. And in case you cannot find the element in the page source, there might be an issue in your application or in the let's say the Appium. I'll show you the examples later. Let me share two important points when taking the page source of the screen. First one, it can be an expensive and time-consuming operation, especially on iOS. It's possibly because it takes time. Appium Server converts the native representation of pesos on iOS. It converts to the native source to the XML representation of the pesos, and it takes a while to process. And scope, the second one is the scope. The scope differs between iOS and Android. In case of iOS, it includes elements outside the viewport, outside the screen. On the other hand, Android, it doesn't include elements outside the viewport. I think the difference in scope also contribute performance variation between iOS and Android. And lastly, also, it's important to mention taking screenshot and recording a Ruby. While it depends on your specific needs, I generally recommend recording a Ruby. And some cloud providers like SourceLabs and BrotherStack, they support automatic video recording during test runs, which is a great advantage if you're using these platforms. And however, please note that the screenshots and videos, recording the videos, may not be available in certain settings such as flag secure enabled. Keep in mind that flag secure, it's only for Android. Oh, sorry. Let's move on the last takeaway, and so let me drink of it. After identifying the issue in your test, the next step should be finding cause on cause and fix it just in some way. And the first step should be narrowing down the cause of failures. Doing so will help you investigate the issue and fix it more efficiently. First, although there are many excellent resources on CI, CD, and version control, let me touch on them briefly here. As you know, every change, whether in the AUT or in your test script, they can introduce unexpected flakiness or failure in its testing. Why not embrace CI, CD, and version control? You should run its test as frequently as possible. For example, running its test every night. Avoid committing large changes in a short period of time. If you are planning significant change on your application side, try to avoid a large change to your test script at the same time, and vice versa. By the way, the Appium project adopts semantic versioning, which means that the major updates may include breaking change. So be cautious and always review the release notes. And by practicing CA, CD, and version control, you'll be able to detect issues earlier and address them proactively. And next, Appium Inspector. Appium Inspector is a CI tool that assist with visual inspection of your AUT with Appium Inspector. You can view the AUT screenshot along with the pesos. Additionally, it allows you to interact with your AUT directory. Appium Inspector is available both as desktop application and web-based tool. Please note that firstly, you need to launch an Appium server before starting a Appium session with the Appium Inspector. Secondly, if you're using Appium Inspector on the web, you need to specify .cors flag to your when you're starting a Appium server. So let me give a small demonstration of Appium Inspector. And here I launched Appium server before. I already prepared. And this is my device under test. And here's the Appium Inspector. And at the left side, as you see, this is the UI screenshot of the AUT. And at the center of the Appium Inspector, you see app source. And when I select an element, you can see the corresponding elements, located in the page source. And at the right side of the Appium Inspector, you see attributes of the element here. You can, also check the locators for the elements of your interest. And you can interact with the element here. And also, you can type any string on your element of your interest. And a lot of command available here. And you can also check the session information capability, something like this. It's very convenient for debugging your issues. And some of you may be concerned if you cannot find an element using an Appium Inspector. In such cases, consider using accessibility feature available on the platforms. One of them is screen readers. You can use VoiceOver on iOS, and also TalkBack is available on your Android device. Similarly, IDEs for iOS and Android has a tool to check the if element is available. Also, iOS accessibility inspector on Xcode is useful. As for Android, layered inspector is available on Android Studio. So let's move on the last chapter. Sorry for running out of the time. Anyway, first let me explain the case study. Last September, we received inquiries from some customers who reported the elements on iOS hash sheet was not available. As you see, I tried to locate the elements on the hash sheet, but the position looks wrong. And it, occurs actually because the elements on the hash sheet are not available on the page sheet. And instead, I try to locate it the element behind the hash it, so it's not available. According to the customer, they were previously able to interact with the elements on the hash it, and however, at some point, they lost the ability to interact with the elements. This is the expected result. I must locate to the correct position of the elements on the hash sheet. Firstly, I check the let's say the page source, and as I said, the elements are not available. I expected something like this button, and the label has value patches. When I check the accessibility inspector I used, I managed to locate the correct portion of the HACID, so it's not likely the application side issue and third-party issue. So I suspected it is Appium side issue. And I use, I suspected it is WebDriverAgent issue because it is WebDriver's responsibility. And I checked the WebDriver agent breaking change here, and version 6 looks suspicious. And the breaking change is that previously the Appium users don't have to be aware of the active application when handling the system dialogues such as permission dialogues. And after the WebDriverAgent 6, Appium users have to be aware of it. To preserve the same behavior, you can use respect system alert setting. And I reproduced the issue using the Appium Inspector and compared the behavior with the previous version, WDA version 5. And as a result, I, confirmed it is the issue occurs since WDA 6. The resolution, after I defined the issue, I submitted a pull request to the Appium project. By this pull request, I added improvement to the respect system alert setting to take care of half sheet. And as a result, we can now successfully find the elements using the respect system alert setting. Sorry for running out of time. And as a conclusion, it's often difficult to locate the cause of the failure in mobile testing. As we don't have a silver bullet, there's some red bullet to address your issues, your test failures. That's it. And thank you. Really thank you for joining my session.
Sorry, maybe you did. Okay, should work now. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Saya. Yeah, I just noticed that my microphone turned off. Can you hear me now, Masayuki?
Oh, sorry, I can hear you now.
Yeah, it was my problem. It was my microphone was off. I'm sorry about that.
Oh,
I was just telling you and the audience that I found it very interesting because Appium has so many moving parts, many drivers, and depending on the automation you're doing, if it's iOS or Android, then um, you need to check the versions of your iOS uh, operating system and also what WDA version you're. So it's very interesting, and I think many times what we all miss is to check the versions we're using, and we never check the change logs. So yes, I think that was at least interesting for me. We have one question from the audience.
thank you.
Let me display it. So Adrian is asking, how do you handle multiple devices like a farm on an Appium server that is bound or connected to a Selenium grid, emphasizing on iOS devices?
Okay. In our case, we don't use Selenium grid because from the security concern, we want to isolate the test environments. So that is why we don't use Selenium grid.
Okay, so you connect. You have something else that orchestrates directly to the Appium server.
Yes, we have a separate Appium server for the users. So make sure that there is no security issue.
Understood. Yeah, 'cause I think the architecture of Selenium 4, so the grid, made it tricky to connect Appium servers to it. So one of the things we're doing in the conference is the 2 days before the conference, we're meeting with different members of the team. Maybe we will talk about it to make it more straightforward to
Mhm.
connect both worlds. Um, any other questions that you all have? We have one expert here in the Appium world.
Mhm.
Let me check in. Sometimes the people write comments or questions in YouTube or LinkedIn, and then they show up a bit later. But it seems no one is writing anything else. Um, One extra thing I wanted to comment was you're going to be here in the conference, Masayuki. So if anyone is coming to the conference and has more questions, you can also engage with Masayuki during the conference.
Yes.
And remember that there is a lightning talks uh, section in the conference, so you can also add something there, Masayuki, if you want to give a talk during the
Yes.
conference.
Yes.
But I think we don't have any more questions, and we are almost at the top of the hour. So I just want to thank you again for sharing your knowledge, sharing your tips to debug Appium tests. And I find it very important that we all follow the strictness that we have in the like check versions, change logs, and all
Mhm.
that. So thank you for that, Masayuki, all those important tips.
Yes. Thank you so much to giving the opportunity. Yeah. Thank you. I'm very happy to talk here.
Absolutely, and we're happy to have you. So looking forward to see you next week
Yes.
here in
And
Valencia in the conference,
yes,
and
I'll
thank
be
you for
there.
being here.
Yeah. Thank you.
And yeah, so there is one person that is Ed is also thanking you. So
Oh, thank you. I'm really happy to hear. Yeah. Thank you.
So people
I'm
who
glad to
found
hear.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here. We're gonna start wrapping up this. So have a nice day for all of you who are in the morning or in the afternoon, and if you're in the evening already, get prepared for the weekend. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.